Hey, everybody, it's Al. It's, wow, we can, here in the United States, we're thinking about Thanksgiving already a little bit. And it means that ModPo is ending. The symposium mode is ending for our 8th season. Eighth season. We've done this for 8 years. Lily.
Hey,
8 years.
Yeah, we're old.
Pretty cool, huh? Okay, Lily's here. Davey's here. Yeah. Hi, Davey.
Hi, Al.
Amber Rose Johnson with cookies. What the?
With cookies.
Can I just hold one up?
Yes.
I'm not going to poison it.
It's 10:30 a.m.
There's
but
a cookie. Cookie. I feel like I'm going to be
Cookie
a
monster.
monster soon.
Yeah, that's right.
And Jess.
Hey, Al.
And Michael is here making sketches. Hey,
Oh, I love
Michael.
these sketches.
Now, what I want... Oh, you did that already?
Wow, that's pretty
The
good.
hell, Michael? You're getting so fast. And no skimping on quality. And Michael always sends me scans of the sketches, which I will post. And Jason. Hi, Jason. Hi. And Anna's at the phone. Hey, and Chris and Zach are here. We're going to have more to say about Chris and Zach, and also they're going to get to do final words. Usually it's like a wave or some modest statement, but whatever. And in the Hangouts, we have Erica. Hi, Erica.
Hey, Al.
Hey, I just got a note that your Bard people are traveling to Chicago. Are you involved in that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. You better check your email then. Make sure that you're not
Yeah. I am involved in that, but I'm not going to Chicago.
You're so busy. Oh, my God. Gabe, hi. Talk about busy people. Hi, Gabe.
Hi, Al.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi. Hey, Max. How are you?
Good morning, Al. I'm well. How are you?
Good. You look good. And Molly, good morning. Early person, 7:33.
Yeah, good morning.
Hi. And that's it for now. There's some others coming. Maurice will be here a little later for a final word. Jake will join us at 11, and you can call us with your final words at 610. We already got one. 610-616-3208. You can also Skype at ModPo Pen, and this webcast is solely devoted to yours and our final thoughts, final words, non-final words, of course, because we'll be back. We go into slow-po season, and then we come back in 2020 on, I don't know what it is, September 9th or something like that. So Anna and I will conspire to send out an announcement about slow-po activities. The first one will be a month-long, with a break for the holiday, a month-long discussion of the poems of Wallace Stevens, and I'll be leading that starting, I think it's December 3rd or December 5th. We'll send out about that. I also wanted to shout out to Benny Cape, who is, my Benny Cape piece of paper has been misplaced. Benny, as you know, is in Gisborne, New Zealand, and arguably the Gisborneans think it's the easternmost city. I mean, situated along the Pacific Rim, that side of the Pacific Rim, technically it's easternmost there. Of course, since the world is round, it's arguable that we're easternmost. Anyway, it's 4 a.m. there, and I just wanted to say hi to Benita, who's had a very difficult year and lots of struggles, and is trying to keep up with us and is joining today. She had to set her alarm for 4 a.m. And one of the poems that she wrote during this difficult period of recovery ends this way. Now I read that singing is good for the heart. I'll keep singing. Not the cure, but a remarkable tool. So, hi, Benita. How are you? I hope you're well. And one more announcement before we take the call. So we've had 181,000 unique logins since we opened this current session. We're in an ongoing session that Coursera both likes and doesn't like. So we're the only ones in an open session. And on September 10th, 2016, we opened a second session. The first one had extended from roughly from 2012, or maybe we kept redoing those. I can't remember. But so we've had 181,000 unique logins, that is, individual people, since 9/10/16. There are 31,000 currently enrolled, and there were about 180,000 prior to 2016. So it's either 360,000 total, or it's a whole lot of the 180,000 who signed up again for the new session, forming the 181,000 unique logins. I have no idea, but let's just say there's a lot of people talking about poetry. Okay, so we're going to take the caller, and then we're going to invite Max for his final word. Who's the caller?
Al, it's our pal from Austin, Philip Drexler.
Okay, great. Let's bring Phil up. Philip, good morning.
Good morning, Al. Well, I apologize for my I had cold throat.
Oh, that's okay. I hope you feel better soon. Do you have a final word from Austin, Texas for us?
Yes, sir, Al. Very short poem here by Margaret Atwood. It's her 80th birthday today, and this was in Poem of the Day.
Great.
And it fits me and ModPo and my experience with it. It's a meta poem. Starts out concrete and ends up meta. Here it goes. It's entitled In the Secular Night. In the secular night, you wander around alone in your house. It's 2:30. Everyone has deserted you. Or is this your story? You remembered it from being 16 when the others were out somewhere having a good time, or so you suspected, and you had to babysit. You took a large scoop of vanilla ice cream and filled up the glass with grape juice and ginger ale and put on Glenn Miller with his big band sound and lit a cigarette and blew the smoke up the chimney and cried for a while because you were not dancing. And then danced by yourself, your mouth circled with purple. Now, 40 years later, things have changed, and it's baby lima beans. It's necessary to reserve a secret vice. This is what comes from forgetting to eat at the stated meal times. You simmer them carefully, drain, add cream and pepper, and add them up the stairs, scooping them up with your fingers right out of the bowl, talking to yourself out loud. You'd be surprised you got an answer, but that part will come later. There is so much silence between the words you say. You say the sensed absence of God and the sensed presence amounting to much the same thing, only in reverse. You say, I have too much white clothing. You start to hum. Several hundred years ago, this could have been mysticism or heresy. It isn't now. Outside, there are sirens. Someone's been run over. The century grinds on.
Ah, Philip, thank you. Thank you so much, and happy birthday to Margaret Atwood. Thanks.
No doubt.
And I know we'll be in touch with you, Phil. Have a good holiday, okay?
Keep book clubs, Al. Bye.
Yep. All right, bye-bye. Thank you, Philip Drexler from Austin, Texas. And now we turn to Max for a final word, final thought. Hey, Max.
Hey, Al.
8 years, buddy. 8 years.
Yeah, I know. It's like any time I think about the passage of time, it's both interesting and paralyzing. But 8 years, it's kind of hard to believe. And most of that actually I've spent in Chicago. So I want to start my final word by shouting out the Chicago folks who I look forward to seeing every fall, and sometimes when it's not the fall, at other times of the year. I really look forward to our sessions at the library, and I'm hoping to extend that throughout the year, especially since a lot of the Chicago ModPo folks all kind of live up around my neighborhood, so it's kind of cool. So yeah, looking forward to that, and also just as a more general final thought, since Al, you started me by having me reflect on the 8 years of this. It's become such a. I mean, after 8 years, after almost a decade, it's such a part of my fall. I mean, ModPo is just a way of structuring my autumn each year, and I really am grateful for that, and I look forward to that. And it's as life makes it more difficult to slow down or to have or as I feel more and more of these like long secular nights, right? To quote Philip's poem that he just read for us. it's good to have to have this sort of built-in community, and also to have this time and space to reflect for a couple months out of the year in this formalized setting. I really appreciate that. I'm grateful for that.
Thank you, Max. And thank you for making the trip up to Niedeker territory to make that really wonderful video that's getting a lot of praise in the ModPo community.
That was my pleasure. I had a ton of fun doing that, and I hope to see them again whenever it thaws up there, so probably in July.
And thank you also for coming back every fall despite one project otherwise or another going on in your life. And it's true, it's hard to imagine that most of the time we've been doing ModPo, you've not been here. You started out here, you worked here, and when we made the original videos, you had graduated recently. And but most of the time you've been there, and you know, I have to say, I go to Chicago every once in a while, but every time I go, we get together, which is a great pleasure to me.
For me as well.
Our friendship. Thank you, Max. Snaps for Max McKenna. Max, a million. Max, what is it? Maximus? No, Max.
Maxime.
Maxime, right. Cool.
French.
Very French. Thanks, Max. Okay, we have someone on the phone, and then I am going to shout out to the Rookies of the Year, and then we'll ask Jess for a final word.
Al, we have our friend Tan calling from Vienna today.
Tan, Vienna. Wow, Jesus. Tan, how did you get to Vienna? That was easy.
It wasn't. It was 2 flights and like 8 hours in the air, but vacations are nice.
That's wonderful.
When they happen once a year, it's good.
What is the 3-letter airport code of your local airport in Siberia?
KJ, I don't remember, KJ something.
Yeah, it doesn't make a word. No. Not in English anyway.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. Great.
It really doesn't.
Well, it's really great to hear your voice. Do you have a final word, final thought for us?
I do. Well, it's my first Final Words webcast that I was able to watch and participate in, despite, you know, having been in this community for 3 years. And so I'm an emotional person. I cry from everything. And this course has been remarkable for a few reasons. Not only because it made me cry multiple times, but also because it is impossible without that mutual participation that you guys have organized and fostered and kind of invested in almost. I have taken other, courses on Coursera, but the thing is, this one is impossible without things like this webcast and without talking to you guys in the forums and without discussing something on the forums and disagreeing and, almost fighting sometimes for whatever it is that is also friendly and inclusive. And that's excellent and unique. And I wanted to thank you guys for that. And I wanted to shout out a few people, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to say big thanks to Erica for your discussions about teaching poetry. I will try to find the time and update, give you some updates about teaching poetry to students of English as a second language. And that was really insightful and helpful. I would really like to say hi and big thanks to Davey, who just amazes me all the time, because it seems like no matter what Al or others or we callers throw at you, you always give such a thoughtful and amazing response that sounds like it has been pre-rehearsed, but it really isn't. You're just that scarily smart. And I really do appreciate that. I'm kind of terrified sometimes because that is amazing, but also it's also very exciting all the time that I hear you answering whatever. And I would like to say hi to Lily and Jess, because Lily has been, for the whole duration of the course there. And I really enjoy hearing your answers and your perspective, and you sometimes being like, I don't agree with that. This is bullshit.
What, Lily doesn't always agree with things?
Yeah, that's surprising, right? Who knew? And I would like to say hi to Jess, because this is the first year I see Jess.
Same with us, actually.
Yeah, and it's been really, really, really cool to hear your perspective and your thoughts, and to hear how almost freely you speak about something that is difficult and maybe not that easy to actually put into words. I really do appreciate that. So yeah.
Tan, thank you so much. We're so glad. Aren't we glad that Tan is part of this community?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. And don't be surprised if you get a message from Anna at some point asking you if you'd be willing to be a community TA. Do not be surprised.
That would be super nice.
I know that you're busy, but take care of your own students first, but then you can take care of ours. Thank you, Tan. Have a really great vacation in Vienna.
Thank you, Al.
We will be in
Bye-bye.
touch, I'm sure. Bye-bye. That's Tan. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to go to Jess. I don't know if I thought that I said earlier that was the next one, but maybe I did. But before that, Rookies of the Year. I mean, we haven't really thought about this, but just my own discernment. Of course, Wes Freeman, who, keeps getting referred to as Rookie of the Year, so I guess it's become true. Bob Bright. Has anybody noticed Bob Bright is everywhere? It's so fantastic. And has a name that ends with 2 T's. I just really like that. Hazy Saboznik, which is a pseudonym, has been fantastic. And Helen O'Neill from Boston, whom we met up in Boston in person. Just really wonderful. I think ModPo is sort of made for what Helen is trying to get out of education, shall we say, later in life. And, of course, Jess is a Rookie of the Year as well, since this is Jess's first time. Before we turn to Jess, I just want to quote Wes Freeman from the Final Words thread. Wes Freeman, no other course has so thoroughly opened up my understanding of what is possible in writing or discussion or inhabiting, to borrow from Jess Schollenberger, a thread she just responded to, a poetic space in the world. That an online course can bring out that sort of an idealism in a not young person like myself really does say something. So that's Wes Freeman. Snaps for Wes, who was just tremendous. And now, Jess, Wes to Jess.
Okay. All right.
I'm pretty good at that transition. That was about the smoothest transition that I've done in a long time.
Very good.
Jess, thank you for being so Jess and really for adding so much to this team. And I bet you were scrambling a little bit to read some poems you hadn't read before, and so wow, you did such a great job. Anybody agree here? Yeah, totally. Okay, Jess, it's all yours.
Thank you. That's very kind, and it truly has been my pleasure to be a part of this. And I'll try not to go on for too long.
You have the mic. It's the final words.
I do.
So do your final words.
So yeah, first I just want to shout out to everyone who participated in my office hours, either as a reader or as a commenter. I really enjoyed that experience. And so, yeah, for my final words, I actually want to say a few words about a book that I've been reading. And I think that I'm reading it differently having done ModPo, so that's why I'm choosing to, bring it in. And it's a book of academic prose poetry. And it's called The Hundreds. Can I pull an Al? Can I hold it up? Okay.
Wow, yeah. Zach was fast there.
Yeah.
The Hundreds. Oh, Lauren Berlant.
Yeah. So it's called The Hundreds, and it's a collaborative project by 2 academics, sort of high-powered academics, Lauren Berlant and Kathleen Stewart, and it uses a 100-word constraint. So each prose poem, so-called, is either 100 words or a multiple of 100 words. So
just like academics, they have a constraint and then they say, well,
so
multiples of 100.
Exactly.
Like 1,000 or 1,200 or whatever, basically. Academics.
They are all quite short, but yeah, it's not a very rigid constraint. It's pretty loose. And the book interests me because, it interests me, one, because it sort of borrows that from conceptual poetry, and that's not something that I would have recognized in the same way prior to ModPo. And 2, it interests me because it sort of fails at being academic writing and prose poetry. And I'm interested in that because I like the implication of its inability to be both. And so in reading this currently and in thinking about my final words, I wanted to gesture to that. I don't have a thought about it, but I'm interested in that difference. Okay, what does it mean to write academic prose poetry? I don't know. So the line that I want to read from the book, it comes from a prose poem that's, I think it begins, "Meanwhile, back on the academic ranch," or something like that. So it's like a prose poem that's like gesturing to the fact that this is like two academics trying to do something that isn't like traditionally recognizable as academic writing. And Berlant and Stewart are talking in sort of vague terms about what they refer to as humanist critique. And they say that humanist critique, in their opinion, begins by saying, or it begins with an assumption that, quote, "there's always something wrong with other people," end quote. And I was struck when I read this and thinking about my final words, because ModPo seems to begin by like thinking the opposite. There's always something right with other people. There is a different thing that happens with other people, and that's something that's worth pursuing. And that is the process. That is the thing that, for me, like, I know this is final words, but it doesn't feel like ModPo is ending at all. I still feel like I'm in the middle of it, in part because there's just so much to be in the middle of. So yeah, that's it. It's amazing to arrive at the end of something that is not an ending, but that's a being in the middle.
Jess,
and that's how
you.
I feel.
That's really
About
great. And I keep hearing the sound of thumping to my right as Davey taps his hand on his heart. And I assume that's about Jess and not some failure of your own heart. Did you want to say a word about Jess? We're breaking the pattern now, but whatever.
Sure, yeah. I've said this to you directly, but it's been so lovely to have you as part of this soup and to have someone, tell me if this doesn't seem right to you, coming to poetry from a space of an academic relationship to poems, whereas many of us are coming to poetry as teachers or were poets before we were in academic space. And I feel confident in saying that you have the most big-hearted academic relationship to poetry of anyone I know. And that's often a difference to me of like folks who like fell in love with what poems do and then took that into academic space and tried to run with it versus thinking that poems were interesting, and like the ability to come from a place of thinking poems are interesting in academic space and open up into a tremendous big-heartedness, which is something that you've super brought to ModPo this year, just is a huge gift you've given all of us. And so thanks for that.
Oh,
Snaps
thanks,
for
Davey.
Jess. Thank you. I want to invite Erica to give final words next, but first I'm going to quote final words from Maureen Bailey, who posted them to the thread. And I have utterly failed. You introduced yourself the other day. I knew your name the other day, and now I'm failing it. Can you?
Emily, yeah.
Emily, would you like to join the table, and we'll turn to you for a final thought if you're okay with that? Okay, great. So here's Maureen Bailey and then Erica. And I just want to remind you that you can call 610-616-3208, or you can Skype ModPo space Penn, ModPo as if it's the first name, Penn second. Maureen Bailey. I'm a 60-something office clerk living in a small town in the middle of the Canadian prairie. I tried university right out of high school, but dropped out thinking I could go back any time, but I didn't. Life happened instead, a lovely life, filled with many blessings and many books, but no formal education. Reading satisfied me through the years, but my attempts at reading poetry usually left me feeling inadequate. Poetry interested me, but I didn't know where to start or how to enter a poem. Then I stumbled on ModPo in 2016. It opened a door. Watching the videos of close readings showed me a way in. Last year, I got up enough nerve to submit a post about a poem, and this year, I challenged myself to write one essay. who knows, maybe next year I will call into a webcast. I love that. First of all, I love the fact that ModPo, that the people of the University of Pennsylvania who make this brick and mortar institution, who heat the buildings and fund its infrastructure, had no idea that Maureen Bailey was going to benefit from our educational outreach. They still don't have any idea who Maureen Bailey is, but we do. So think of us as sitting at the fertile edge of where the university ends and the rest of the world begins. And that fertile edge is about commandeering, repurposing resources for the sake of really anybody who's ready to learn, whether they're credentialed or have had any other education at any time. And then the second thought, of course, I have in response to Maureen is that ModPo, because we go on every year, it is possible for someone to read some poems one year and then write one essay the next year and then call it a webcast the following year and so on, because we're going to be here. We're in it for the long term. And so, Maureen, you didn't get education at the beginning, but now you can have it as slowly and as open-endedly as you want. So thank you, Maureen. We're now going to turn to Erica Kaufman, one of my favorite people in the whole world. Thank you, Erica, for being you. Thank you for caring about teaching in an academic world where teaching is third, fourth, or fifth in anybody's consideration of merit. Thank you for being such a great poet. Congratulations on your new book forthcoming. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being incredibly even-handed. You love dishing and gossip and stuff about the poetry world, but you're also just so open-minded. I mean, people who do bad things in the poetry world, you think, well, okay. And then people who do really good things, you think, oh, they don't need my celebration. You're just so even. It's great. So smart, so edgy, and so even, so there. Thank you for reaching out to teach people in prisons. Thank you for reaching out through BARD to teach people in unlikely circumstances. And really, thank you for inspiring us at a certain point in the development of ModPo to take pedagogy seriously. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. I feel like everything you just said is mutual. And I'm endlessly grateful for stumbling upon ModPo and then being a part of this community. In the work that I do, I don't, I teach teaching and I think about history of education, but I'm also a poet and somebody who writes about poetry, and ModPo has helped me figure out a way to do both and also helped me figure out how to find space in a crazy busy job to make sure that I'm really engaged in poetry consistently, particularly in the fall. And thank you to all of you at the Kelly Writers House and at in the room in Philadelphia and in the forums and Google Hangouts. I love being in conversation with you. So for my final thoughts, what I wanted to do was I wanted to begin by a couple of things that I noticed that were exciting and different this year that I feel really happy about and eager to continue. One are all of the really fantastic additions to ModPo Plus. In particular, the contemporary Canadian poetry sample, the Hanif Willis Abdurraqib poem. If you didn't have a chance to spend time with ModPo Plus, there's so much good stuff in there. And then the second thing that I wanted to notice that I thought was really exciting is that this year we had really rich conversations about Joan Retallack's Not a Cage in a way that I don't know that we've done in past years. And I feel as though it was such a deep pleasure to see people imagining ways that they might do some similar sort of procedure with books, playing around with libraries and making those kinds of poems through library books. It was really awesome. And Joan has a new book coming out this spring. Some of the poems in that book are in ModPo Plus. And then finally, my office hours and conversations around teaching, there are a couple of people that I wanted to shout out specifically. Alana Shaw and Nicholas Stern were kind of the mainstays, and I feel really grateful that you both showed up almost every single office hour and shared a lot of really exciting ideas. Alana shared a workbook that she made that outlines steps that she did when making aleatory work in particular. That's kind of mind-blowing and how incredible it is. I had really wonderful conversations around teaching with Dave Bender, Sharon Wells, Sally O'Brien, Anthony Risser, Mary Armour. And I also wanted to shout out Tan. I feel like I got so much out of our beginning conversation, and there's a lot more. And I look forward to learning more from all of you. So thank you, Al, Kelly Writers House, ModPo. It's been a
Erica
good
Kaufman,
call.
everybody. Hey, Erica, you are the best. You're so generous. Thank you. We're going to turn to Amber Rose next. But before that, I just want to shout out to some CTAs, community TAs. And I'm not. My list does not include everyone. And forgive me if I've missed someone who's been very, very active. This is just sort of part of the group. It must be about 50 or 60 CTAs at this point, and they make the whole thing work. So, not worse, work. Somebody observed recently, maybe it was Anna, that back in 2012 and 2013, and really you just have to ask Zach and Chris this. Without this, we didn't have CTAs then, and boy, we had to answer every question. And poetically, we had to fend off people who were saying things like, Gertrude Stein doesn't mean anything. And, there was no one around to catch every concern and every worry. And we were bombarded and felt like we were defending the course, which is not something a teacher should ever do, be in a position of feeling like you're defending the course. The CTAs are out there. They're asking questions right at the beginning. They're nipping concerns in the bud. They're just responding. They're open-hearted, and they're great. And we could not do this without them. So here's a partial list of them. Allison B., who is such a good friend of this project and creates the weekly logistics threads. Sanjeev Naik, whom we finally met in Boston. And he is a delight. He's such a delight. And Sanjeev handles the Twitter feed. He's doing it now, but he also manages the Facebook page. So he's the best. Sharon Wells, of course, and her dog Smuggler, we love. It's Smuggler, right? Smuggler. Anna Smuggler? Yeah, I get that right. And I know Sharon is watching tonight. MC Katniss, who we finally met. Mary Carroll. Dominic Weston, we're going to hear from him, I think, today in a voicemail. Mary Armour from Cape Town, South Africa, and travels a lot to Zimbabwe and elsewhere. Mandana, of course, Mandana Chaffa, who handles the New York group. Lisa Greisler, Nicholas Denny Stern, whom we're going to meet in Seattle when we get out there in January. Jim Ritter of LA, Mary Barnes, Holly York, Magdalena Castani, Suzanne Margono, Julie Naslin, Paige Pulsing, who's been meeting up with the LA people, T. De Los Reyes, who even when she's relatively inactive because she's dealing with a crisis at home, she's still so part of the scene. Elaine Ruth White, Colleen Knight, Kathy McCabe D., Alana Shaw, who's been mentioned, Terry Talty, Meredith Lederer, Adam Birnbaum, Virgil Houston, all right, Virgil. Bill Spear from the middle of the country, who's so supportive, so always there, consistent. Pam Shapiro, Anthony Watkins, of course, Emily W., Chris Foreman, and others. Can we get snaps for the CTAs? They are so important. Thank you all. And Amber Rose is so important. Thank you, Amber Rose, for being really despite the potential down-ishness and mood-inducing-ishness of academic life as one lives it, you are always so ready to bounce up. You're so ready to be positive. You've got such positive energy. You have a great smile. There it is. And you're a friend. You're a good friend. And when we haven't seen each other, as we won't maybe after ModPo season ends, we won't see each other quite as often. You always say, wait, we haven't seen each other. We need a hug. And that's more important than pretty much anything else. So, Amber Rose, thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you. It's all yours. The mic is yours.
Thanks for inviting me to be here. Yeah, the Kelly Writers House continues to be a really, really important, really grounding space. And all of the people that are in it, there are some really good people in the Kelly Writers House. And it's really a blessing and a pleasure to develop relationships with you all. I want to, so I'm in the Facebook group, and I just want to read really quickly one final word that was given by Danielle Staggy, who says, 8 years since I completed ModPo with the first global cohort. And though I only really dip in every fall, I want to say how continually amazed and grateful I am for the intentional way that community is built and celebrated through the process every season and in every event. Thank you.
All right.
So my final word, I want to give a shout out to Elizabeth Willis, who is in ModPo Plus, and whose poem survey Al read at the end of one of our webcasts, and it totally inspired me and got me over a very long writing drought. So shout out to you, Elizabeth Willis, for that
Liz.
poem. And okay, my final word is really to read just a couple of lines from a poem by Erica Hunt, who was here with us last week and whose poem No is in ModPo Plus for week 5.
A voice of no.
A voice of no.
Yeah.
And so definitely go and check out that poem in ModPo and the poem talk that was done, which included Elizabeth Willis, I think. But these last couple of lines, because I think they so adequately sort of speak to the community and the sort of poetic thinking place where you're thinking relationally and experiencing sort of yourself as an extension or in relation to someone else, which I think is what Jess was speaking to as well. And so the lines are... This is from the end of Science of the Concrete. People make the people around them, and they write to write the reader out of retreat, out of distant austerity, concealing this same fragile activity. People make each other, part by part, then whole into whole.
Amber Rose Johnson. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks. Can I get a pre-hug? Pre? Thank you. Amber Rose is the best. So Maurice has joined us. Hi, Maurice. Hi, and Jake. Hi, and Jake Marmar has joined us. So I'm going to turn to Maurice in a second for a final word. I also want to put out that you can call us at 610-616-3208 or Skype at ModPo Pen. And I'd like to signal to Zach to queue up Dominic Weston. Would that be okay? Okay, so Dominic's voicemail. All right, so then we're going to turn to Maurice for a final thought. Maurice, 8 years of this, huh?
Yes, and I'm so grateful to continue to be part of the community. Being part of ModPo reminds me of the amazing people that this course continues to bring together, for service intellectually, but also with their personal stories, generous with their imaginations, and it's moments like at meetups with Jake Marmar where we spontaneously came together around completely new poems that just so touched by the openness of poetry that allows people to connect over completely diverse experiences just because of the magic that poem allows in conversation and in the meeting of imaginations. So that's my final word for ModPo. Gratitude for this space that allows that magic to happen.
Thank you, Maurice Kuchansky. Yay. Thank you. And Maurice, we realize you have to leave. You're sort of between meetings, so we'll hope you can stay on a long time. And your Hangout says Coco. Are we calling you Coco now? I'm teasing you. It does say Coco. Yeah, Coco. I don't know what that is. You're borrowing someone else's feed. Coco next door is obviously having a internet speed problem. Anyway, thank you, Maurice. You're the best. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to turn to Dominic Weston, who left us a voicemail. Then I'm going to ask Emily if she wants to give a final word. Dominic Weston.
Hello, Al, Anna, and all ModPoers in 2019. This is Dominic Weston from Somerset in the UK, and I'm calling with my final words, which are just to say that last year was my first year on ModPo, and this year is a first year as a CTA, and being part of that support community that I now learn how it works from the inside, and it's so important in encouraging people to take part in ModPo. That's been fantastic, and it's been fantastic because you start seeing people dipping a toe in the water, perhaps, and not being sure if they can participate or if what they've got to say means anything. And, of course, as we all know, it is just about taking part, and so it's wonderful to be in a position to help encourage people to do that. And if you haven't done it, don't be afraid, and maybe this year isn't your time, but maybe next year is. And I would encourage anyone just, keep being part of ModPo. It's a fantastic community, and I feel very privileged to be part of it. See you in 2020. Bye.
Dominic Weston, isn't that great? I mean, that's the keynote, isn't it? Is to, do it as much as you can, and don't feel guilt is not an issue here. Do not feel guilty that you couldn't complete this or that. Fantastic. All right, we're going to turn to Emily, and I am going to, prior to that, I'm going to read out the names of some ModPoers who've just been really active and fantastic, and there's so many more. I mean, hundreds and thousands of more. But here are some. Ron Jimenez, who's been fantastic. Colette Bates, our friend Ton, of course, we've referred to them. Jennifer Levin, Christy Williamson. We just love Christy. In Scotland, Rupa Lahiri. Has anybody run into Rupa lately? Rupa seems to be back at the beginning of the course and just doing stuff, stirring up trouble at the beginning while we're all trying to get to the end. I love that. Lena Holdman, who doesn't ever hesitate to ask questions about how the platform works. Julia Rodriguez has been fantastic. Xiaoli, Xiaoly, who is from China, who's been in the United States in the Boston area for many, many years, and joined us this year. And we got to meet Jolie and her husband in Boston, which was fantastic. Mark Bauch, who is in Germany, who's also taken Anna's for-credit version of this course. Ken Hay, of course. Everybody knows Ken. Dave Bender from Philly. Jamie Reyes, Jose Reyes. We met Jamie in Boston also. Jeremy Rosenberg. Clarissa Stein, a superstar from Australia. Dina Perot, Apolina Vakova. Susan Thompson. Mark Jackson, of course, who goes way back. Kim Harrison's been fantastic. Martin Porter, who seems to have moved from Australia to the UK but carried ModPo with him. Thayer Corey, Stephanie Nelson Rankin, whose contributions to ModPo since 2016 fill up 19 screens. I read them the other night. Kathy Gargis, who's been active in the Global Study Group, and of course, Philip Drexler. Thank you to those people and to so many others who just are citizens, ModPo citizens. As is Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, do you have a final thought?
I do. So I don't know if you've known this, but I've actually been a little bit of a passive listener since freshman year. I came from a creative and performing arts high school in Pittsburgh, and I was really looking for...
Wait, you came from creative performing arts high school to the University of Pennsylvania? To the pre-professional University of Pennsylvania?
Yes, and I majored in creative writing at this middle and high school. So I was really looking for a community like the Kelly Writers House and like ModPo when I came to school, and I enrolled in your class almost immediately whenever I got here, but the struggles of nursing school made it a little bit hard to keep up with poetry, and I felt myself kind of drifting off. But it's always something that I felt that I've been able to return to. You guys make poetry so accessible for so many people, I think they're scared to read poetry. They're scared to not understand it. There's so much of it. There's so many different types of it. And you guys have always been able to break it down into such an understandable and accessible and fun and friendly community. And I think that it's made so many people join it. And I just have been like so thankful to listen and watch it grow. And new people have come. And there's been guest artists. I loved listening to last week's podcast with Tracy. I was just completely enthralled. And I just wanted to say thank you and thanks for having me.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Emily. Fantastic. Thank you. And here's a little alert. We're going to turn to Jake Marmar. No, we're going to turn to Gabe next because I heard a rumor that Gabe's got an appointment somewhere downtown and should get his final word in sooner rather than later. Emily, here's news. You ready? Okay, so Lily and Anna and I in the fall, to coincide with another running of ModPo, the 9th running of ModPo, which will be worldwide, we're also going to be teaching a face-to-face class in this room on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:30. And we hereby give you a free pass to audit, come in and join.
I would love
that class. And it's ModPo. Don't get me wrong. It's ModPo again, but it's it's here. It's face to face every.
Or take it for credit. You don't have to just audit.
Oh well, aren't you going to be graduating?
I'm going to be graduating. Unfortunately,
Really
no. But
keep up
I'll
with
be in
this.
Philly. I'll be in Philly,
well,
so I'd
good.
love to keep up.
Anna,
Yeah.
is that okay? Yeah. Okay, great. So you'll join us then.
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, I think we have someone on the phone, and then no, we don't. Okay, so let's turn to Gabe for final thoughts. Gabe, thank you for being so brilliant. Thank you for being really, really, really brave. As a poet, but also as an emergent scholar. It takes a certain amount of bravery to do the regular PhD at such a place as Chicago. Not that Chicago is super square, but it's squarer than you are. So you're just good at negotiating. You're staying on, thinking edgy things, but also doing the due diligence. And you always do that with ModPo as well. You're always thoughtful, and I'm just plainly grateful for it and for your friendship.
Well, thank you, Al. I like to think some of those things about me too. No, but I'm very glad to have been.
I didn't say humble. I said brave.
I am very glad to be invited back. I'm glad to be here. I should also note that basically every time I've ever been in a webcast, either one or both of these guys are near me.
What is it about the webcast that attracts them?
I think it's the sounds of the voices. Like, I think they think something's going on, so that they just kind of come. Also, it's like the only time that I'm seated in one place for a very long time, so they like take advantage.
Great.
What's it called? So I was just gonna say, like, basically, ModPo has been helpful for me throughout my time here. I guess I've been here like 4 separate years, though not 4 years. And for me, it's always like a useful reminder of how what somebody like Jeffrey Escoffier would call vernacular knowledges, which is a term I'm like not sure I like, but how vernacular knowledges can shake specialist knowledges, in the sense that it's great that one of the things I appreciate about ModPo is that we are not just like radiating what we think is information into the world and into everybody else, and we're just like megaphoning our perspectives into the world, but rather it feels more like an open conversation. There's a lot of interaction and interruption, and there's the weird sort of lags, and there's the sort of confusions, and I think that's sort of a more productive way to have this material get learned. Like, I think poetry is hard, but I never am of the opinion that there's such a thing as a poem that's inaccessible or a poem that's only for a certain amount of people. And I believe it's hard, but good that we can spread the kind of energy and the techniques and the power to get some kind of a handle over the poem. And I feel like people always surprise me in this class. And, I will also say, Al, that it less surprised me because I've known you for longer, but I think your ability to kind of juggle this whole like monster of ModPo, especially just in remembering people's names and like remembering where people are from and always like asking like one thing that you remember about them, is just very impressive. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm glad to be exposed to a lot of different kinds of knowledges and a lot of different kinds of approaches, because it just keeps things actually, I think, a little easier than we sometimes think they are.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you so much. Snaps for Gabe. I really like many things that you said there, but one in particular stands out for me, which is that you're saying that it's good for us who are on to different things, moving far afield or expanding the definition of what the field means, but then returning to this and doing it with pleasure because you're always going to find something new in it. I like that. I like the idea that this is very expansive, but it also is kind of a return intellectually, aesthetically. I want to turn to Molly O'Neill next. But prior to that, I think we have someone on the phone. So the phone and then Molly. Who's on the phone?
Well, it's kind of perfect if we go to Molly next because our caller is Paige Pulsing from LA.
Oh, yeah. Paige from LA. Hi, Paige. How are you?
Hi, Al. I'm doing great.
Great. It's been a while since I've heard your voice or seen you. A couple of years since I've seen you.
Oh no, you were in LA maybe last year.
Yeah. Okay. It's been a year. It's good. And before you give your final thought, can you reflect on teaching online, which you've done for years, and how ModPo has shaped your ideas about teaching online?
Well, ModPo really changed everything for me for teaching online because what you taught me 8 years ago and what I'm continuing to add into my own pedagogy is the real idea that teaching online is very different from any kind of face-to-face teaching, and that we have to establish relationship and community, just like we have to do in any of our teaching. But the way you do it on ModPo is a way that I'd never seen it done before or experienced. And so being able to incorporate some of the strategies that you use has changed everything about the way that I teach online.
That's fantastic. Is it possible that you are sitting with Lori right now?
Yes, I sure am. I'm sitting with Lori and Darlene.
And
right
Darlene,
now. They both say hello. Yep.
Darlene, my pals. We did a ModPo minute together at the Huntington Library.
I know. I was so jealous. Yeah.
Wow. Well, tell them we all said hi. Do you want to?
I will, and they say hi too.
Okay, great. Amber Rose is my insider here because Amber Rose has been looking at the Facebook group, and you obviously posted a photo.
Yeah.
Now that's why we know you guys are together. I want to give you a chance to do your final thought too, in addition to responding to my question.
Thank you. So I just have a few, not too many things. First, I really want to say thank you to all the newer TAs. Because of my work schedule last year, I wasn't able to do the live webcasts. And so this is my first year of really hearing their voices and listening to their thoughts. And it's been really, just phenomenal to have a new perspective, to think about things differently, to explore the poetry in a new way, but not just the poetry, but thinking about community and thinking about the ways that ModPo continues to grow and change, and new voices just enrich that. So thank you to all of you, Amber Rose in particular, because you changed my writing practice at one point with just one little thing you said. So thank you so much.
That's
great. One. The second is that we found something really unique in our LA group this year. And I don't know if it's because we've been meeting for a long time now. We meet every fall for the last 8 years, some of us. And we were very consistent in our meetings this year. But one thing that we found was that we have sort of gotten over a hump, or we've crossed some kind of invisible threshold in which now when we do close reads, it's like we're sitting down to a family meal and we're able to kind of engage with the poem and with each other in a way that we haven't been able to before, because we're no longer worried about how we sound, if we sound like we know what we're talking about, or we're not worried about offending each other. So we share ideas in a very intense relational way that I haven't noticed us do in the past. So that's been a really fun thing to see how our own little mini group here in LA has evolved as the course has evolved. So that's been really fun. And my third thing is that we're kind of talking about like a ModPo pilgrimage. so that for next year, ModPo 2020, we want to fly out and be part of a live webcast and maybe see who wants to come out and be part of that and have some kind of a day-long event, or I don't know.
Well,
So
we roll
that's
out
there,
the red
so-
carpet. If you let us know when,
Yay.
you will have the Writers' House as your spot. And we've done it well. Mama Pope has been here. A lot of people have traveled from a great distance. Christy Williamson from Scotland. I could go on. And we will do our best. Right, Anna, to take care of you. And Lily will help too. And well, that's great. So thank you.
Yeah, so anybody else who's interested should check in with us.
Great.
I'll
let me
have
just
it on Facebook or whatever.
Okay. Let me just comment before we turn to Molly, your pal. Let me comment on one thing you said, which is the idea of the family meal. So you all met through ModPo. So that was the weak tie or the loose tie we were talking about earlier this season. And it's become a strong tie, a close tie. And that is also a potential about loose ties, is that they become familial. I love that.
Yes.
Paige, thank you so much. Love you guys, and we'll see you here in the fall.
Love you too.
Okay, fantastic.
Wonderful. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye. And that was Paige, and now we turn to Molly, who knows all those characters. So, hi, Molly.
I do. Yeah.
Hey.
Shout out to the LA crew. I'm sad that I couldn't be with them this morning.
Molly,
I just lost my connection.
your connection is freezing a little bit.
Okay. Should I continue or no?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. The thing I've been thinking about is poetry, and this course in particular, as a practice similar to yoga, and how we return to the same poses and the same poem year after year, and they change a little bit every time. And as the world around me shifts, and as my personal politics shifts, and as my body changes, I look for something different out of the poems and out of the poses every time, and I receive something different every time, and it really never gets old. And the act of teaching also helps me to fill in some of those gaps in my own understanding, so I really learn and receive as much from the students as I do teachers, the workers. So I'm really grateful to be able to do this again with all of you.
Thank you, Molly. Snaps for Molly O'Neill. Molly, I don't know if you can still hear me. Your connection has been a little jumpy from our end, but thank you for staying with us for 8 years. I know that at the very beginning, when we got the band together for the first time, you were among those who thought, "What have I gotten myself into?" And it's personally very, very satisfying and happy-making every time we have a call about, will you do it again next fall? And you say yes. And of course, you have one of those schedules that makes it very hard to do the webcasts, but you're here, and we just love it. And it's always good to see you. And I travel to L.A., and I am going to be in L.A. soon, so I will let you know, and we can get together.
Okay, see you then.
Thank you, Molly. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to quote from another final word from Thayer Corey, and then I want to turn to Lily Applebaum, and then to Jake. So Thayer Corey, who's I think relatively new, writes the following. Oh, by the way, Jeremy Dixon quote the tweet too. Just legged it back from yoga class to arrive home in time for ModPo final words. Sending all my love to everyone involved, and huge thanks especially for all the support of my book in retail. To see Al holding up a copy during the webcast has been a total, and then he got cut off because that's the way Twitter works. Total, oh, did he do another one? Okay, total gas, total. Anyway, how do we feel about Jeremy Dixon? Lily?
I don't know. We're BFFs. We're making
Yeah.
it. Next time he comes to Philly, we're going to go to the Bulk Vintage Warehouse. He was complimenting my shirt. We're having a whole meta combo over here.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, it's great. And when we were in London, we got to hang out with Jeremy, which was so great. Okay, I'm going to quote Thayer Corey, and then we're going to turn to the aforementioned Lily Applebaum. Thayer writes, My big takeaway from ModPo is that these poems beg to be read communally. Many of them made no sense to me until they were exposed and explored by a tribe of curious readers. Al's comment, "The crowd is wise," says it all. But what a radical idea that is in a society that prizes personal gain and hierarchical controlling relationships. In an interesting and almost subversive way, ModPo calls us to activism. We need ModPo more than ever as the world balances between those who believe safety lies in narrowness and those who choose to understand that we are participating in the evolutionary process of making all things new. Thayer Corey, that was a real keeper. Yeah, Anna likes that. Yeah. And there's somebody on the phone. So we're going to go to the phone and then to Lily. And who is on the phone?
It's our CTA extraordinaire and pal from England, Sharon Wells.
Sharon Wells. Hey, that's great. Hi, Sharon. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
It's just a very quick hello and goodbye, really. I don't want to hold the lines up too much, but it was lovely to hear Dominic's voice.
Yeah, he's great. That's great. Is
Yeah.
Smuggler nearby?
Yeah, I just tweeted a photograph of him in as he looked when I woke him up and said, Al's just mentioned you.
Oh, that's great. Oh, there he is. There he is. Yeah. Wow. It looks like he barely woke up. Al who? I don't know.
Yeah, what's all this about? Let me get back to sleep.
Okay.
On your bed where I shouldn't be.
Yeah. There you go. You have a final thought today, Sharon?
Not really, just what a fantastic... I think this has been the best yet, just for all those various discussions that other people have mentioned, Erica and everybody else today. There's just been some really interesting explorations of poems that I haven't noticed, as being interesting before, particularly. So,
Great.
yeah, it's just
fantastic.
Been
Well, that means a lot to hear because you're a veteran, and it means a lot to hear that we did well this year.
Veteran.
Veteran, that's the wrong word, but you know, a many-timer. Yeah. Thank you, Sharon. Have a great day. We love you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.
Sharon is great. Okay, Lily, final thoughts.
Well, I want to start my final thoughts with a shout out to my esteemed colleague, Anna, for all of her, sort of like blood, sweat, and tears of ModPo organizing, putting all this stuff together, wrangling people on many continents, et cetera. So thank you to Anna. I was just thinking when Al talked about going 8 years with ModPo, the first year that we did ModPo, I had been graduated from college for like 1 month. So it's been, what did I know sort of about community teaching and learning experiences? I had a pretty traditional school, a very traditional school thing, right? You run from kindergarten to high school and then you go to college. So I hadn't been a part of an intergenerational, multi-national learning community before. So this was a really eye-opening experience that first time, and it continues to be eye-opening. And then from that point, I think personally, my teaching and community coordinating and involvement and stuff has really expanded. And now I'm involved with I organize these political education series for my socialist feminist group, and I organize events for my community garden, and I'm involved in all of my English as a second language or English for speakers of other languages teaching. I'm just kind of always thinking in the back of my head that first being involved with ModPo kind of gave me a model for what how important it is to just be comfortable walking into the room, and then putting a lot of time and effort into that piece of it, which I'm really proud that my colleagues here and I spend a lot of our effort in making sure the room is open and people are comfortable to walk in. That's a big part of the work of learning together and being in a community of learning together. And yeah, I'm just proud of the work that we've been doing for the last 8 years with that. And what else do I want to say? I guess I really echo what Erica said about like dipping into ModPo Plus, and that like if you're feeling sad that we're not like going away now, that it's just the end to this sort of synchronous mode. And that there are a lot of ways to connect with Kelly Writers House in the quote unquote off season of ModPo. You can stream our programs live from your house and just look at our Writers House calendar for links to get, information on how to do that. We have a variety of online discussion groups, not just the one that Al will run in the ModPo forums or the Slowpo groups that other people will run in the ModPo forums, which are great. We also have a variety of often like email-based discussion groups. And if you write to me at whbook@writing.upenn.edu, I can give you like more information about those. I have one about the Haunting of Hill House in January, so a little plug for that. Come and visit us. Someone recently in a call mentioned making a pilgrimage to come during ModPo, but you can come other times too, like, find an event that looks interesting. The house is open for you. You are like now a member of this community, so you should please feel free to come visit us and hang out.
Thank you, Lily Applebaum. Yay, Lily. What a pleasure it is working with you, and we do work very closely together.
It's true.
And we're hardly ever mad at each other.
That's true.
If ever. I'm sure there are days where you're mad at me, but you're not telling me.
No, I was gonna say, Al, I don't feel like I know you. I know you to not be a person who like holds a grudge about being upset at anyone.
That's nice. Well, anyway, I always tell Lily that she's utterly brilliant, and she just fends that off every time I say it, because first of all, there's a lot of brilliant people around here,
Well,
so
that's true.
But on the other hand, you're just so on the mark all the time, and you have a very strong ethical sense, and you keep to it, and it's important to you, and it's affected a lot of us. And you said something about making the room safe, and in the context of in the context of ModPo, that's a metaphor. Mm-hmm. Because making a room that's as large as this, that extends all the way to Siberia or to Gisborne, New Zealand, it's a pretty awesome responsibility or a pretty awesome project. And I think people are testifying to the fact that the room, the space of ModPo is a relatively safe space, is a remarkably safe space, given it's an open online course. I know you care about that.
Speaking of making the room, our pizza is going to be delivered soon.
That's why
so I'm going to dip out for a minute. So I apologize that I gave my final word and ran. But I'll be back.
Was her way of stopping all the compliments. Lily Applebaum,
Thank you, Al.
everybody. So I want to turn to Jason. Next, and then we'll figure out where to go from there. Jason. Also, Jake, I want to make sure. You know what? Let's go to Jake first, because I have a feeling Jake has to run off. Hi, Jake Marmar.
Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thank you for turning to me now, because I do have to run, and I would love to say a few final words.
Yes.
And that is just a word of wonder and gratitude for how through this very subjective, through cerebral, through the innards of digital, odd, wonky technology, this is a journey to the heart of that which poetry has been doing for thousands of years, this face-to-face, transcendent. And that's what ModPo has been for me. And I love participating in all of our digital interactions, but really such a highlight for me was ModPo gathering here in the Silicon Valley with Maurice and a few local ModPoers. Just the instant connection of people who've never met before in person that we had, and when we dug into those poems together, it was really special and memorable and incredible. And also, just a continued gratitude for Kelly Writers House, which to me is it's part of my my literary poetic universe, or maybe the center. And that phrase of making pilgrimage to Kelly Writers House, I feel that way too. Whether I travel to it through the digital or through my imagination or actually physically in person, which I'm always looking forward to doing.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
And Jake, you're going to be coming east more often with respect to your work. Am I right about that?
I hope so.
You hope so. Okay, that's ambiguous. But I hold out with great hope that you will spend more time here in the East so we get to hang out with you because you're such a delight. Thank you, Jake Marmar, everybody.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you. We're going to turn to Jason next and then to Davey. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Al. First of all, I want to shout out to Allison Fraser, who's always come to my office hours, and to Ronald Keeperman, who drove from upstate New York to come to a multimedia poetry reading that I organized a few months ago, and who is still, who's become a good friend. I want to really express my love for everyone involved in ModPo, and especially for the care that Al models for everyone. If to take an academic space and to, Al is kind of the most benevolent pirate to take a space of what can be a space of exclusion and turn it inside out into a place of love and community centered around language, which is something we all share. I wanted to just end my final words with two poems, two very brief poems from this book. I don't know if you can see this book.
A Humument. It's a great book.
It is by Tom Phillips, who's a British artist who found in the late 60s a book in a thrift store called A Human Document. And he has gone through many editions of painting over the words to create new poems. And this is the, sadly and shockingly, but the final edition, which, but if you go to his website, Tom Phillips, 2 L's, or type in A Humument, you can access all of the first, second, and third versions of his treatment of this novel. And I wanted to show you what it looks like, because in a way, I think that the way he finds poems in this text and connects words that are separate is what we accomplish here. We create community through unexpected but once found necessary connections. I don't know if you can see the page on my left. You might not be able to read the text. You might not be able to get that level of focus, but I'll read it to you. Scribe the once or twice story. Scribe the story. Reveal a sister story. Veil thrown over a veil. As changes made, the book continues. See now, the arts connect.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, again on my left, I don't know how good of focus, but each page is an astonishment in this. Each edition is different. So from page 175, for you, and to me this is kind of almost like a prayer for ModPo. For you, the voice of the sun would sing a riddle, only connect, greater simplicity, fortitude greater, calmly connect.
Thank you, Jason. Jason Cisco, everybody. That was lovely. I loved it. This is a course on U.S. poetry, so it's a little special to bring in someone who's not American, but we should totally put him in week 10. Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much. You are, I could listen to you all day. That's always the case. And that's not an idle compliment either, by the way, because there's not a lot of people I could listen to all day. And I look forward to having lots of time where we can just sit around.
Yes,
so,
me too.
Thank you, Jason. All right, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to have Davey offer a final word, and then I'm going to invite Chris and Zach to say something, which they will politely refuse, but Anna will shove the mic toward them. And then Anna herself can offer a final thought. And I want to say a few things about Anna, and then I will end with a few final thoughts, and that will be it. So, Davey Middle, I feel such great respect, which, usually when you have a friendship based on the academy, it starts out to be respect, and then the respect kind of evens out because, you kind of continue to be as great as you are. But the respect curve with respect to you just goes up and up and up. Respect is not a word that's used a lot when you start talking about a relationship that you find within the university. This is where it starts. When you get out on that job market, you are going to end up being a fabulous, super duper professor at some fabulous place. And it will begin because of the respect and the heart and the care that you have for people. I don't know that that's why they will hire you at last, but it will be revealed when you arrive. And I hope when you get there, you'll still hang out with us.
Of course.
Davey Middle. Final thoughts.
Thanks, Al.
From Davey Middle. What do you think of Davey and Rose? Davey's okay, yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Amber Rose. So I mostly just wanted to do the medium-length version of thanking all the folks in the room and in the physical room and in the non-physical room of ModPo who spent some time talking with me about disability and access over the past couple of months. And what I wanted to say about that is to thank everyone for their generosity. Lots of folks were very candid about their personal experiences of living with a disability and working through the material in ModPo and talking in great detail about how both the format and the energy and the friendliness of ModPo are elements of its access. And that's been really amazing to think about, that like how nice we are to each other makes the course more accessible, which is kind of incredible, that like kindness is an access tool. And I've been thinking about that a lot, and that's been amazing. And what I wanted to say about that is both that it's given me a lot of like generative academic thoughts to think about, like, all right, if we're going to have a conversation about how to make open online courses accessible and use them as a tool of accessible pedagogy, what does that look like? And it's also been personally extremely useful. And I had the great pleasure of hanging out for a few minutes with Mandana after the webcast that we had in New York a couple weeks ago at the Morgan Library. And we had a really amazing conversation that was very, I think, meant a lot to both of us. And something that Mandana was very generously talking to me about is my own sort of personal relationship and investment in questions of disability, which I've said before in the forums comes from, in my personal experience, being raised by a single parent who is neurologically disabled, and something that is difficult in like a normal classroom is to figure out how to be an intellectual person and like a human emotional person at the same time. And something that I wanted to say in my final word is a word of gratitude to everyone who's had conversations with me about disability in ModPo, because they've been really interesting, but also amazingly personally useful as I figure out like, what does it mean to care deeply for someone who is bipolar and is much less forthcoming in her ability to talk about being bipolar than many of the folks who struggle with disability in the course. And the idea that folks could find it generative to share their experiences of disability has been so personally transformative for me. And so I wanted to say thanks, both as a teacher, that seems really useful, and as a person that's been really buoying and has helped me want to be a person in moments where that feels a little shaky. So thanks.
Davey Middle. Thank you, Davey. Thank you for being you. Zach Cardner, come on, Zach, get a mic. Zach is amazing. I mean, Zach and Chris, neither of them complain. There's no panic registered on their faces or bodies when, like, it's 5 minutes before a webcast and the audio isn't working or something major like that. I don't know how they do it. You know, I mean, you guys should have been around in the mid-'60s in Houston at Mission Control, because you're just like that. Zach, thank you for everything that you do and how amazingly adept you are. And do you want to say anything?
No problem, yeah. Let me just, I have to do the camera.
No
with one
problem.
hand.
He's got to do the camera on himself.
I'm glad that we weren't in Houston, because I don't think we're quite that qualified. But a couple things. One, you shouted out Rupa earlier in the webcast.
Yeah.
And they chimed in the YouTube comments and said they're here.
Okay, great.
Also, Michelle Daub, Shaheen Ma, and
who the hell is watching the YouTube comments except for you?
They pop up sometimes, and usually I don't say anything because I don't have a mic. And the other thing I want to say is just, it's always a pleasure. I enjoy doing this every year, and I'm about like halfway through week 1. That's where I'm at in the course over the last
That's
7
what
years,
Coursera tells you.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to completing week 1 by 2025.
Oh,
yeah.
That's fun. And while the mic is passing to Chris, I'll just say that Chris and Zach and Anna and I are the ModPo crew when we travel on the road. And we always, the four of us, have such a crazy great time. And Chris drives, right? Zach is like the master packer of all the equipment. Anna does all the itinerizing. Is that a word? And I'm like the moron who just sits in front of the camera. Just go along. And I spend the money. It's so much fun. I enjoy hanging out with you guys. Chris Martin, final thoughts. Thank you for doing everything. Wow. The audio is not an easy thing. The audio on a webcast is not an easy thing with all the inputs coming at you at once. I love screwing with it. Like, I'm tempted to pull out the audio plug now and blow out your ears, but I won't do that because you want to be able to speak.
I do. My hearing is kind of important to the job at hand, and pulling out the plug impedes upon it. Over the years, it adds up, But yeah, no, it's just crazy to think that when I first started.
Look at the picture Zach has on you.
Whoa!
Wait, I didn't even know that camera could turn like that.
I didn't either, but it's
a cool look.
That's a cool shot, yeah. But yeah, it's crazy to think like ModPo is such a big part of the year and part of my job at this point. Like it wasn't always that way when I first started in my role, I guess over 8 years ago. ModPo wasn't a thing, and I remember just the moment of finding out that we were going to do this new thing. This new Coursera thing is coming online, and we're going to be one of the first courses to try it. And just the excitement that kind of went into that was amazing. And I get to work on a lot of different technology projects as a IT person. But ModPo is definitely the first thing that I tell people about when they ask me what I do. And it's something I'm really proud of. Getting to work with technology is really cool in general, but getting to apply technology to something like ModPo is just an amazing combination. To get to apply technology for the greater good of learning and reaching learners throughout the world is just an amazing project to be a part of. So I'm thankful for everybody willing to use technology for this purpose.
Chris and Zach, everybody. There are people all over the world right now snapping and applauding and appreciating you. And the people who've been around, they know how crucial you are. So thank you. Anna Strong Safford, love, love, love is what I feel about you. You are, I mean, it's hard to imagine. Once in a while when I watch the original 2012 videos and you're sitting always to my right and, is it to my right? My left. And boy, I mean, 8 years ago, you were young. Now you're brilliant and a little older. Then you were young and brilliant. And just seeing that and thinking, wow, we have worked together intensely for all those years. And you just, what a lucky person I am to have you as a partner, sidekick, maker of things. You are the best at it, and you have such a great attitude about it. So I look forward to many, many, many more years of working together.
Same.
Anna, final thoughts?
Yeah, I am kind of mad that Molly didn't cry this year too, because usually it's like Molly and I who both cry. Now it's just going to be me, which is like somehow more embarrassing. So I really just want to use this as a time to just say thank you to a whole bunch of people. I am so incredibly, and now we're getting a call from a 561 number.
We have to decline the call. I
I'm
think.
so sad. Sorry, caller, that we have to decline your call. Okay, so I just want to say first thank you to the CTAs, with whom it's my really great pleasure to sort of coordinate their activities and get to have the really amazing job of like inviting the new CTAs and then inviting the return CTAs to come back. It's one of my favorite things I get to do is to work with each of you and get to kind of be part of that level up experience of like going from a ModPo learner to a ModPo learner and also co-convener, co-collaborator. Al said it before, but we truly could not do this without all of your involvement, and I just adore each of you, and thank you so much for everything that you do to help make this entire experiment possible. I also want to say thank you to the teaching assistants. To those of you who had to leave, I'm sorry, but I'll be writing everyone a official thank you note in the coming weeks. But it's just my great privilege and pleasure to get to do this with each of you. You're all so unbelievably generous with your time and your energy and your effort. This takes a lot. These 10 weeks are really intense. And to think that each of you are willing to give an office hour and a forum hour and a webcast, sometimes 2 hours, is just really, really astonishing. And the way that you take care of all of the people who are learning this crazy experiment with all of us is really, really, really special. You don't really see this that much in academic departments or classrooms all that much. And to have a team of people who are that dedicated to it is really, really special. I also want to say thank you to Zach and Chris. You guys are just the best to work with. You make fun of me sweetly and jovially for my attention to the itinerary and the detail. And you always forget your damn packets. But you guys are just the best.
Why do they forget the packets? I don't understand that.
I worked damn hard on those packets.
I don't forget the packet.
You don't forget the packet. But it's just like, getting to kind of expand the ModPo project in the ways that we have, like with travel and stuff, and with making videos like all of the time. It's just been like such a fun part of this job, and it is fun to brew po and travel with all of you. And to Al, I don't really know what else to say other than I just appreciate everything that you've given me, and all the work that we get to do together, and how supportive you are, and how generous you are, and how much you make space for everyone at this table and everyone in this community. I really, really could not have designed a better thing to do with my life than work here and work with you. So thank you.
Anna Strong-Safford. Thank you, Anna. That's very beautiful. Thank you. The feeling is mutual. And boy, oh boy, do we have fun doing this. And yes, for life, we are going to do this, slowly, and we're going to adjust to things and just keep on going, right? Okay. I want to conclude with three things. One is to quote Pearl Ketover-Prilik from Final Words, who's had a rough time of it, but really has something very dramatic and actually pretty typical to say about what ModPo can be in a time of stress and precarity. And secondly, I just want to quote an awful tweet about MOOCs. And finally, I want to end with Eileen Miles. This shouldn't take too long. First, Pearl. Pearl's mom passed away during ModPo this season, and this is Pearl's first season in ModPo. So you would think without the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 year commitment to ModPo, that would be the thing that would drop out, right, in a busy season. But no, see what happens. My mother has taken her last ride on what she always called the merry-go-round. She was an activist and perfect counterbalance for my artistic father. She passed in hospice on Saturday, November 10th in Florida after an initial bout of breast cancer 40 years ago and 17 years living with metastatic because completely symptom-free and completely independent, giving the right-wingers hell in Naples, Florida. Finally, a month ago, cancer manifested in a conflagration of pain and presence that would not be checked. My mother was a teenage mother, married a teenage boy, under highly dramatic circumstances, and those two kids, yin and yang, had a great ride. During all this, ModPo has been a delight, a needed change for this mind of mine. Thank you. And all for the venue, the discussion, the webcasts, a critical sense of homecoming. Thank you for all. Forgive the Free Association reaching out to you from the ignominy of a newbie, a rookie. I wanted you to know I did not disappear in this final week, but simply had to give my mother the bon voyage she deserves. All my gratitude for the magnificent course and movement you have put together, and for all whom I have met along this short but rich journey. I shall be back. I really, really like that. I mean, I'm so sorry, as are so many people in the forums, for what Pearl has gone through, but her mother sounds like she was an absolutely extraordinary person. And just as we're learning that trauma is inherited, so is, in a way, generationally, a kind of discovery of pleasure in taking risks, which clearly Pearl has inherited from her valiant mom. And the best part, of course, is that I shall be back, maybe in a season that doesn't present so many difficulties. Just imagine what Pearl can do if she's back where things are going well, where she is. Our best and our love to Pearl and to everybody who wrote, and so many people who wrote in response to Pearl. And this puts in stark contrast the stupid tweet that I read, I guess yesterday, put out by a Twitter feed called EdSurge Higher Ed, which actually has a lot of followers. How dare this, whoever it is, magazine or whatever, have a lot of followers? How dare they? This is what they tweeted. MOOCs, #MOOCs, should be understood as digital content like podcasts, online magazines, Netflix series, or even email campaigns, rather than facilitated educational experiences akin to college seminars. How dare they? How dare they? I want the person who tweeted that to sit around with Pearl Ketover-Prilik and Benita Cape and Tan from Siberia. Just hang around with those people and tell them to their faces that a MOOC cannot be personal, that a MOOC cannot be a project of the heart. Just go ahead, right? How dare people assume that a technology has to be one thing, that it can't be another. So call me a benevolent pirate, but I think it doesn't. You don't have to be piratical in order to prove that thing wrong. And we will conclude with Eileen Miles, who has something to say about what it's like when something is not quite right with the way you look, in the way you feel about the way you look, and you look in the mirror and you realize that you have the power to connect any two things and that is like God. That's what happens with Eileen Myles. And I guess, and Eileen would be the first to say, that this is a poem that is an ars poetica. It's a poem about all poetry and all about life too, which is that you get to use your imagination to connect any two things. It's almost Dickinsonian power that Eileen Myles gets to say, I see this, I see that, I see this, I think that, I think this. I can put it together. And when things are fucked up and not going well, I have the power to call that poetry. And it is very godlike. So we end with Eileen Myles. And with thanks to everyone here in the room, everyone who makes ModPo possible, everyone who's going to be involved in SlowPo, everyone who's here in Philadelphia is going to join us for pizza in the next few minutes, and all the meals and family gatherings, as the LA people put it, who gather around whatever city to do ModPo stuff. We like to think we're that generative and that you'll hang out with us again in SlowPo or next fall. So we're going to go out with Eileen Myles, and we wish you a great day, a great week, a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate, and a great holiday and New Year. And here we go. And those blinks are my email coming in. How do I get rid of that? Let's see. Do not disturb. I don't know how to do it. You know what? That won't work. So I'm just going to play Eileen Myles. Here we go. Ready?
Writing. I can connect any two things. That's God. Teeny piece of Band-Aid, little folded piece of Band-Aid. I ran to the bathroom to see my face. Sometimes I don't want to see my face in the mirror. Sometimes I can't bear my thoughts. Sometimes I can't do anything. But that's okay. Band-Aid, book, God. That's right.
That's right. Thank you all. Have a great season. We'll see you soon.